We're talking about the place where everyone wants to live.
Plano,
Frisco,
Allen,
and McKinney.
This is Collin County Life
with Brent and Angie.
Welcome back to Collin County Life. We're glad you joined us again. And remember to follow us on our YouTube channel. So you go to YouTube and search for Collin County Life. Click the subscribe button. And if you click the bell along with that, you'll get notified of new episodes. Also, you can follow us on the Facebook. And a lot of followers on the Facebook, and that's where we post things during the week that you want to keep track of that's going on in and around Collin County. This week, we obviously have some news to talk about related to Collin County. Angie's going to tell us about some things to do. We have a big interview coming up with your friend Roy from Ponder on Weather. I think our listeners will find that interview to be interesting, and we're just excited to have you here. Now let's talk about Collin County. First of all, what is the big news of the week in your mind, Miss Angie?
That I don't have to wear a mask anymore.
Right. Now that news varies throughout the county for different purposes, but we know the federal CDC guidelines say that people who have been vaccinated no longer need to wear a mask indoors, and almost saw an immediate change as I went out to different places over the weekend.
Yes.
So that's good to see people's faces and be able to breathe freely. And we'll talk about some of the school district's policies on masks as we go forward in today's episode. Also, less than 100 people now in Collin County that are known to have the active virus. And that's important because, again, when we started this podcast in February, there was 4,000 people who had the virus. So it's come way down. Obviously, vaccinations, obviously social distancing, all that has worked. But other good news or special news in the county this week is it is graduation week.
It is.
So I think a lot of school districts, some graduated today, right?
No,
next week.
I know Frisco is graduating the weekend of the 22nd.
Okay, so that would be next weekend.
Oh,
right.
It sure would.
Yeah. All right, so that's
I'm not
next
sure what day
weekend.
today is.
I think McKinney. So everyone is looking forward to graduation. It's a busy time of the year. But it always reminds me of when I graduated from high school. Do you remember that day?
I remember it.
Do you? How so? What do you remember as being special on that day?
Well, for me in particular, because I was not a fan of school, it was a relief that the end had come. It was finally here. I was free, but I didn't know what I was free for, and I didn't realizing that school was much better than adulting.
Yeah, I had a similar, issue. Like my senior year, I'd already checked out. I had the senioritis. I liked school, though. Unlike you, I liked going to school. But by the senior year, I only went half days, I recall. So when it came around to graduation, like you, I kind of felt like that was my freedom all of a sudden. But at the same time, I remember that day, I can visualize this in my head. Don't know where else I would visualize it, to be quite honest with you. But I am currently visualizing in my head, thinking to myself, oh no, now I'm responsible for the rest of my life all of a sudden.
It's very interesting because that thought never occurred to me.
It never occurred to you at all?
No, not at all, which is...
So we have two nephews that are graduating this year.
Yes.
Both named Nick.
They are both named Nick.
Right?
Yeah.
And one is in Allen and one is in Frisco. So we're proud of those guys this week graduating. So
Yes.
Now, a couple of strange stories in Allen. And this should not be taken to believe that Allen is a dangerous place to live. But two stories had to do with criminals being convicted for their crimes out of Allen. The first one was, I don't know if you remember this, about 7 years ago, there was a rash of home invasions in Allen where people of Asian and Indian ethnicity were specifically targeted.
Yes, I do remember that.
Well, one of the masterminds of that criminal group, his name was, or is, Juan Olea, was sentenced to 40 years in jail for that crime spree. But what I didn't know, I guess I wasn't keeping track of this, what I didn't know was that crew was actually going across the country doing this.
Oh.
And this was like one of the spots that they chose. And so they committed these crimes in Allen, I think, Flower Mound, South Lake, different places. And they would target that particular ethnicity specifically for that crime. Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Huh.
All right, some good news now. This covers a couple of cities. Everyone's wondering, what's going to happen with the schools now that the COVID is, sort of going away. Obviously, we know it can come back, and we should be careful. But the schools particularly, students have been in this weird, state of either online learning or some hybrid of that. And if they're on campus, they're wearing a mask, and they have to social distance, which is something that teenagers and children are not good at doing.
Especially elementary children,
Yeah.
right?
Right. The whole keep your hands to yourself thing doesn't,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
that doesn't happen. So in Frisco, as of June 1st, they will no longer require students to wear masks. Okay. And unless something changes, I guess Frisco plans on going back to normal come fall. So,
That's my understanding as well.
yep. And same is kind of true-ish for McKinney. McKinney ISD is going to eliminate virtual learning next year. I haven't heard the word on their mask
No
policy.
masking. Effective May 24th. No masking.
Okay. So at the last day of school, no more masks.
No masks. No. And there will be no virtual learning next year. It'll be all on
Right. So
in person.
I just reported that according to the Courier Gazette. So,
I
but apparently
reported that according to the letter I received as a McKinney ISD substitute.
Oh, there you go. Oh, good. Plano is not going to require masks either, and so basically in Collin County, for the most part, I'm sure all the school districts are sort of going to follow the same guidelines. But that the point I'm trying to make there, though, is that policy doesn't have anything to do with whether they're vaccinated or not. So the CDC guidelines are no mask if you're vaccinated. The school district's policies don't seem to make a distinction on vaccination. So
There has not been an indication that I have heard.
right. So again, So it looks like maybe we're coming out of this, and it's good news, and everyone should be happy. Another thing going on in McKinney this weekend is the Byron Nelson. Of course, we didn't get an opportunity to go. Today would be the last day of the Byron Nelson tournament, and it'll be interesting to see how that turns out because it is raining, and it's supposed to. Well, I don't want to talk about the weather yet, but it is supposed to rain all week. So I don't know what would happen if they're not able to finish that. So tune into your television this afternoon to see where that goes with the Byron Nelson. But the good thing about the Byron Nelson is that it brings attention to our community, not just among golf fans, but internationally. People are focused on where these tournaments are. And so McKinney is in the limelight, at least for the next couple of years. But it'll be interesting when the PGA finalizes moving their headquarters to Frisco, where that tournament will be held in the future.
Yes.
And chances are it'll probably go to Frisco.
Probably.
Yeah. And then finally in Plano, you're familiar with Collin College.
I am.
They were awarded an Innovation Award for this year, Innovation of the Year Award. And what they're doing, I guess, to get that Innovation Award is they're offering medical plans to students and part-time employees. So they're offering health benefits on demand, and what is it called? Telehealth services to students and part-time employees, which is quite an advancement.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
Because, of course, when our kids were in college, they benefited from our health plan. But there's a lot of adults that are in college, and they may not be able to afford a health plan or may not have one through maybe a part-time job that they have. So I think that's good for them to offer that.
Yeah.
Your Collin County weather
What big
forecast.
plans did you have for this coming week, Angie, that the weather might affect?
Well, I always have plans to be outside. I love to be outside. I love to feed the birds. I love to sit on my porch. I was hoping to go for a walk.
Well, cancel that.
All of it?
All of it.
Every day?
From what I can tell. Yes, and like I said, I'm not a weatherman, but we will have a weatherman later on in the episode.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And I did have an opportunity to talk to him this last week, and the report I'm about to give you is pretty accurate coming from him. But this weather system that we're experiencing right now is going to stick with us all week. So all week, every day, it's supposed to rain, which I guess is a good thing because we need it to rain. We were a little bit behind on rain. This should maybe catch us up. And the other thing, I don't know about all these things, but there's like an El Nino or an El Nina or whatever that is. We were supposed to have a dry summer. So it still may be.
Always have a dry summer?
Well, yeah, well, not lately. You know, lately our summers have been mild, and grass has been green all summer, right?
Right. Well, true.
Right.
True.
So this is supposed to be more like what we remember, where it was, hot and dry for the summer, and I think that's still the plan. Whoever's in charge of planning that, I think that's still the plan. But we sort of benefited from this little weather system that has been going through the last couple of weeks, and we're getting an opportunity to catch up on some of that rain, so maybe it won't be quite as dry. What we like to do is bring in people from around the county who have interesting stories and talk to them. And obviously, if you know somebody who has an interesting story that we might like to highlight here on Collin County Life, and we have a number of these folks lined up in the next couple of weeks to come in and be interviewed. We're looking for that. But this week we have a weatherman.
Yes.
Self-taught, self-proclaimed weatherman,
Yes.
whose name is Roy Ponder. His website is Ponder on Weather. And I know, Angie, you follow him.
I do.
On the Facebooks. And for your weather, because you're always telling me what Roy has to say about the weather.
I like to watch Roy in the middle of the night when Bella is hyperventilating to find out when the storm is going to end, because he's always on live.
Well, I have an interview now. We're gonna go into that interview with Roy and hear about his work. All right, Roy Ponder is with us today on Collin County Life, and we appreciate him joining us. And Roy, one of the things that we like to ask all of our guests when we start out is, what brought you to Collin County, and why did you stay?
Well, actually, my wife, I grew up in Houston, and I moved to Dallas in '96. And then when I met my wife, her mom lived here, and she's like, "Hey, let's check out McKinney." And I'm like, I went to McKinney for the first time. I was like, "Well, where are we going? Oklahoma?"
It is up here.
But no, I fell in love with McKinney from the start.
The reason why we have you on here is weather is more than just something to talk about. Everyone talks about the weather, but living in North Texas, we do have significant weather events that happen, and people are interested in accurate forecasts. Angie, who also hosts Collin County Life, she's been following you for some time on the Facebook, and she really likes what you're doing, so we wanted to bring you in and talk to you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing on YouTube and Facebook, and maybe how that whole thing got started for you.
Sure. I like I said, I grew up in Houston. I first became fascinated with the weather when back in 8 years old, when Hurricane Alicia went over my house, and I was just awe of the power of Mother Nature that night with the major hurricane, and the power was out for 3 weeks. And then after that, I just kind of found myself watching all four news stations, not because of the news, but because of the weather.
Right.
So I was one of those kids that really enjoyed the weather. So it was one of those things that just evolved over time. I was a big time runner. I used to forecast a lot for my running groups. And so I did all that. And, it was one of those things. It's like, hey, we need to start because it's going to be starting raining at 2:00. It started raining at 2:00. I said, Roy, how'd you do that? I said, well, I follow the weather a lot. So, then of course my wife was tired of me talking about the weather. It's just like, hey, we should get your own Facebook page. I was on my birthday, 4 years ago. So I was like, oh, that's cool. So, hey, because I did it a little bit from my personal page. And so I was like, hey, well, great. I'd like to talk about the weather, but what am I going to call myself? And so my friends named the channel for me, Ponder on Weather. And it started and just started forecasting is what I kind of did on the side. I just did it for the public and just put myself out there. And so it just kind of evolved over time.
People were interested. So was there a particular weather event that maybe triggered people to follow you? And I'll just say, like, for example, last week you mentioned, I think that you added a number of followers during the tornado event that happened in Collin County.
I do feel like my first event that maybe put me on the map is back. That was the year that Hurricane Harvey hit. And back then, there wasn't actually a major hurricane that hit the United States in 10 years. And so when that happened, about 12 days out, and, you know, hurricane season is my bread and butter. I feel like I'm really good at it. And there was a whole system that said, hey, I'm going to, you know, this looks like it's going to be the first major hurricane to hit the United States. And like at the time, it was like 4,322 days.
Wow.
And it did. And it's like, Roy, how'd you do that? And I was like, man, I follow the weather a lot. Right. And so I think that, you know, earned a little bit of credibility, obviously. And then so it was just, you know, from there, people started tuning in more and more as I posted and talked about the weather.
So you do this full time now, right?
I do, actually.
So tell us a little bit about what POW-Ponder on Weather does. What do you do on a daily basis? Because we don't see you like on the news, right? So you're not on the news.
Sure. Yeah. So on Facebook, I forecast locally for my local community within North Texas here. And then I also have a YouTube channel, which is I forecast nationwide there. So what I mean by nationwide, I do all the entire United States and the Caribbean, and it's a daily forecast. It's a daily uploaded forecast. So yeah, it's just a combination of.
And then you do live events, right?
And then I do live events. So you know, obviously I forecast for the, you know, weather in North Texas and do live streaming for severe weather events, any high packed events that might happen. So yeah, I'm constantly and involved in the weather.
So I'm going to throw you a curveball since you do national weather, and you mentioned even the Caribbean. What area of the country has the most interesting weather?
I mean, even North Texas. I mean, North Texas, Colorado. I mean, interesting. There's different climates,
right?
But you know, obviously the Northeast has a lot of blizzards, nor'easterings. Florida's hurricanes, Caribbean. It just depends on what area of the country you're talking about. Right. But yeah, I mean, it's the most challenging weather. There's even North Texas is probably one of the challenging.
Is that right? And what makes it challenging?
Because we're in the middle of the country and we're in the cross between, you know, the southern jet, where the jet stream dips, and everything kind of makes a transition because everything evolves from west to east. Colorado is another place that has, I mean, Amarillo, any place where you have a lot of volatility, but extremes and swings in temperatures is one of the most challenging parts. We have what they call the cap here in North Texas, where you have that warm plume off the Mexico mountains that puts a lid on the atmosphere. So sometimes the atmosphere could be really susceptible for really bad weather, and nothing happens.
Right. One last question for you. During the recent storm that happened last week, we were following several different stations and people, including yourself, and a lot of the forecasters were, obviously warning people of imminent tornadoes and high winds, and they were recommending finding a safe place and wearing a helmet. And I don't recall that being advised before, so it seemed new to me, and I was just wondering if you knew where that was coming from.
Well, we were under what they would consider a hatched risk advisory for hail. We were a little bit more susceptible. The atmosphere was capable of producing 2-inch plus diameter hail, so that is dangerous hail when it gets up to the softball 3.8 inch type variety. That has been known to not only go through your windshield, so that can do damage to your head if you're driving the car, but go through the roof as well. And wearing a helmet is because some people, hey, it starts raining outside, it starts hailing outside, it's like, hey, I'm gonna go out in the yard and grab one. Well, these things travel about 100 miles an hour from the sky.
Wow.
And they've been known to do some serious damage to people when they hit them in the head.
Wow, that is something else. Well, Roy, thanks again for joining us on Collin County Life. We love to focus on local people doing interesting things, and you certainly have something going. Where would people find you? So if people now want to follow POW, which is POW, Ponder on Weather, where would they go?
I have a website. It's ponderonweather.com. And then I'm on Facebook, POW-Ponder on Weather. I'm on YouTube, POW-Ponder on Weather, Instagram, as well as Twitter.
Right. Okay.
So I'm pretty easy to find.
All right. Well, thanks again. Like I said, it's great to have you on here, and you've given us a lot of good information.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hopefully we can have you back again sometime. Okay. It's nice to have Roy on the program.
Yes, absolutely.
And to hear about, how he got into the weather and how he's had this success on YouTube and Facebook and how it's not just local. By the way, I want to just stop here and invite people. I have a special invitation for people to talk to Collin County Life. As you know, Angie, over the last few weeks, especially at church, we see people move into the community. And so they will visit our church for the first time. And would you say that the majority of these people that are first-time visitors to our church are from California?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, well, thanks. Well, do you know anybody who's visited our church that wasn't from California?
I guess not.
Okay. All right. Anyway, it's a truth. It's fact.
It's a fact.
Okay. There are people moving from California. And what we would like to do is I would like to invite you, if you have moved here from California in the last 6 to 12 months, I would like to hear from you and find out why you moved here and what are your initial thoughts about living in Collin County.
That would be. I would like to know that too.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
We want to get to know you a little better.
Right.
Keep track of you. All right, now it's time, Angie, for you to tell us what we should be doing this coming week.
In life?
Yes.
Or just for fun?
For fun, but life is about fun, right?
is.
And so
It is.
it's important for us to have a plan. And I will give you this. Since we started this and we have started doing some of the things that you have been looking at. So prior to starting the podcast, our life was pretty much of whatever came into our head that day, right? And we found ourselves missing a lot of activities because we found out about them too late.
And nothing came into our heads.
Right. It was the same old thing. Oh, well, I guess I'll sit on the couch. Right. And so since we've been doing this podcast and looking for things to do, we've actually become more active ourselves.
Yes.
And we've gotten out more and we're enjoying some of that. So I want to encourage you, get out. The sun is shining when the sun is shining. Get out.
Even when the sun's not shining.
And do some of the things, and you will meet some people, and you will see all of the great things we have going on in the county. So
Yes.
You were up, my dear.
Okay. And so in saying all of that, I have several things that are always here or seasonal.
Right.
That some things I didn't know about and some things we've just never gone and done.
Right.
So first up, I have it's a family-owned restaurant system in Plano. It's not a system. They own 2 restaurants currently. They
Okay.
are opening a 3rd.
Okay.
And they're all right there together in the downtown Plano area. 14th Street is their location. They currently have a restaurant called Urban Rio, which is Mexican food.
Okay.
Then they have Urban Crust, which is pizza. And they are opening, which this is what caught my eye, Urban Seafood Company. So this company, they're going to have an oyster bar. They're going to have, it's a bar and a grill and a seafood market. But on it, they mentioned things like New England type chowder,
Okay.
which you and I both enjoy, a good chowder.
Which initially, for the record, you would not try.
That is
Tell the
true.
audience why you would not try chowder.
Because it was creamy. I don't like creamy. I don't like sour cream. I don't like Alfredo sauce.
Right.
I don't like any of that.
But when we were in Boston, I made you try it.
And it was very good, and I kind of love it. If it's good.
Yeah.
If it's good.
Okay.
So That's what caught my eye.
So these folks sound like if I was a restaurateur, this is kind of what I would, because you know me, I can't like settle on one thing.
You would struggle here. Well, there are 3 different choices.
No, but what I'm saying is if I was if I owned a restaurant, I would have the same issue where I couldn't stick with one genre. I would like have multiple genres.
Right. Also in Plano, which is another location we've not been to because we've been sitting on the couch, is the Boardwalk at Granite Park.
Okay.
So that's 5601 Granite Parkway is their address. They have this gorgeous, at least online, because we haven't physically been there, but it looks really pretty.
They virtually have.
They virtually have a really pretty boardwalk. And along the boardwalk are restaurants and bars. They have a farmer's market that is there every Sunday from 11 to 4.
Oh, wow.
And they have every Saturday from 10 to 11, they have summer bod Saturdays. And this is a group class. And it's hosted by different organizations. The one that jumped out at me was Camp Gladiators because I have participated with Camp Gladiator. But there's other ones. Camp Gladiator is one of them. So in Frisco, the Frisco Rough Riders.
The maskless Frisco Rough Riders, by the way.
Which is in Collin County. Their season has begun. You can get tickets at milb.com/Frisco.
Right.
But and this is because, again, I have not been here, which is really sad.
We have been to a Rough Riders game. We have sat on the grass with our children. Do you not remember this?
No.
I have pictures.
I thought that was a Rangers game.
That was a Rough Riders game. It was in Frisco, and I have pictures. I'm going to put the pictures in this podcast. I have them.
Okay. Well, nonetheless, I have no memory whatsoever that they had a lazy river.
See, this is what happens here. Angie will tell me we don't ever do anything fun. We do fun things. I have video evidence of this, but she doesn't remember that. What do I do with that?
Well, let's take into consideration, and when you show that video evidence proof, our children were all under the age of 15.
That's true. That's true.
So, which was a long time ago.
But we've done a series of fun things. What I'm trying to say is we haven't done one thing repeatedly over and over again. We've done a series of fun things that I can also document.
We needed to do more than once so it would stick.
Okay.
Not that I would even get in the lazy river, so I don't know why I'm concerned.
Oh, okay. Now we're focused on the lazy river. Got it.
Okay, let's move on. Frisco Fair is May 20th to June 6th. So apparently this is an annual event. Didn't happen last year because nothing happened last year. May 20th to June 6th. It is located in the Frisco Fresh Market area, which is 9215 John West Elliott Parkway.
Is this where we were in the rail yard. By the way, we got a video coming up of us being at the rail yard last weekend with Emerald City Band playing. So keep tuned for that.
Yeah. That was fun. Emerald City's fun.
Sorry to interrupt you, but that's in the fun. I'm sorry.
The fair, back to the fair. There will be rides, games, live music, just like any other typical fair. And their hours are 4 to 10, Sunday through Thursday, 4 to 11, Friday and Saturday. And you can get tickets online at friscofair.com, or you can also get them in person. There's not an admission to get into the fair. You just have to buy tickets to ride the rides, just like the state fair kind of.
I wonder if they're going to have those $60 corn dogs there that they had at that other event.
That other event was a charity event.
Yeah. Well,
let's be specific.
God bless that charity.
One corn dog was not $60. That was several corn dogs.
Okay. 4 corn dogs plus a couple of drinks came out to $60.
Wait, you forgot the thing. What was the thing?
The funnel cake?
Yeah, the funnel cake.
Yeah.
There's a couple funnel cakes involved in that too.
Right.
So, all right. And then lastly, I don't have anything for McKinney this week. But lastly, in Frisco, this is up your alley, Frisco Charity Car Show, which is May 22nd to the 23rd. So just a 2-day event. So that's the weekend. It's 100 plus multi-class car show. I don't even know what that means, but it's 100 cars. It's an indoor and outdoor event.
Okay.
It benefits World War II veterans and Covenant kids.
Okay.
which is the foster care and adoption program.
Ah, good.
So their hours are Saturday 9 to 5, Sunday 9 to 2. It's at 6300 Flyers Way. And this is hosted by Frisco Flyers Sports and Events, Parkwood Collision, and Loaded Dice Speed Shop.
All right. Well, here's the thing. You keep saying to me that car shows are my thing, right?
Right.
And you've announced several different car shows on here over the last couple of months. But I feel like I'm being discriminated against or whatever, because we don't ever get up early enough for the car show. And so we never get to go to the car show.
Well, there's nothing preventing you from going to the car show.
Oh, it's so fun by yourself. You got to have your girl with you.
Okay, well, maybe well, this one is 9 to 5, so that's a pretty lengthy period of time. Mm-hmm. So we could pull that one off.
Now, speaking of veterans, by the way, I just heard about this today, but on Saturday the 29th in McKinney, you were missing something for McKinney, right?
Right, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I did not have time to get the specifics on that.
Yeah, so it's May 29th. It's at 10 o'clock, and there's going to be an Armed Services Memorial on Weiskopf Avenue.
Yes.
Okay.
Up in Craig Ranch.
Is that where it's at? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's a good event because that is to recognize those folks who have served in the armed forces.
And Mayor McKinney will be there.
Mayor Fuller will be there, and his wife will be singing the national anthem.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, so if you have an opportunity to come and show your respect for our veterans, that would probably be a good thing.
Be fantastic. Mm-hmm. Very patriotic thing for us to do.
Yes.
All right. Is that it?
That is what I have, yes.
All right. Again, we want to thank you guys for joining us and remind you to please follow us on Facebook. When you follow us on Facebook, we know that we're delivering the right content. So follow us on Facebook or subscribe to us on YouTube. On Facebook, we're at Collin County Life Podcast. So you just type in Collin County Life Podcast into your Facebook search box, and we should come up there. Click the follow button, and then when we post something there during the week, and by the way, we post stuff that isn't necessarily in the videos, so we'll post events that are happening in Collin County that is sort of late breaking stuff or stuff that we stumble upon during the week. So that's why you want to follow us, because there's stuff in there that's not on this video.
Yes, and in saying that, within the next week, I plan to organize, so I'm going to do some work for you.
Okay.
A list of some of the local summer camps.
Okay.
So
I'm going to be posting that on the Facebook page.
correct.